Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum dear students. Our today's session is on writing an outline and using a dictionary. So mainly the session is divided into two parts and each part would deal with a separate topic. Before I go for today's session's details, I would like to share a review of the previous lesson. Our previous lesson was on the types of paragraph, where we looked at paragraph from yet another perspective as it was given to you in a lesson that came even before that. Our first lesson on paragraph development had a discussion on how, according to the positioning of paragraphs within a composition or an essay, how they can be seen as of different types, such as introductory paragraphs or opening paragraphs, detail oriented paragraphs, and then the closing paragraphs or transition paragraphs. However, the previous session was a way of looking at the types of paragraphs from a different perspective, that is according to the nature of the contents of the paragraph itself. In this session, I talked about a descriptive paragraph and its characteristics. In the same way, I talked about narrative, expository, argumentative and persuasive paragraphs. I gave you examples of each, and I also gave you the important features or characteristics of each of the types of paragraphs. We also had the chance to have some practice of writing some kind of sentences that would fit into particular types of paragraphs. Then I moved on to defining paragraph, comparison and classification paragraph. Each of these types was explained with the help of examples, and I showed you some sample paragraphs as well. Finally, I moved on to process-oriented paragraph and then evaluation paragraph. Towards the end of the previous session, I gave you some tips for writing each type of paragraph, and we had some exercises or activities where you had to identify certain types of paragraphs. I hope that those activities would have helped you identify different types of paragraphs and to see how certain features are found in each type. Well, writing is a very vast area and it needs a lot of skills. It needs a set of many sub-skills. One of the sub-skills is the ability to write an outline before you really write something. So the current session has as its part 1 the topic writing an outline. However, in the current session, I would also deal with using a dictionary as part 2 of this session. So starting with part 1 of today's session, that is on writing an outline, I would like to share that following are the areas that I would cover under this part of the session. We would start with what is an outline, and then we would move on to different types of outlines. I would introduce two main types of outlines, that are macro outlines and micro outlines. I would show you the samples of each of these. We would share the features and important characteristics of each of these types. We would also have some comparison in how they are different from each other. With this, we would move on to the advantages of using an outline. While talking about macro outlines, I would share another important area of writing an outline, that is clustering. I would introduce to you what is clustering and how it can be used in writing outlines. Towards the end of this part of the session, I would talk about differences in good and bad outlines, and then I would also share how, once you have an outline, how it helps you and how it enables you to move from the outline to the real writing, that is the writing of your essay or paper or composition. Well, dear students, as far as the definition of what an outline is is actually, I would say that an outline is a way of forming, arranging and developing your ideas. Though formal in form, there is a great amount of flexibility in how you might approach making an outline. It can be made either before you have written a single word on the topic or after a draft or two. It can quickly cover the main ideas or become a detailed, in-depth undertaking. That depends upon your writing needs. The purpose of an outline is to help you organize your paper or your essay by checking to see if and how your ideas connect to each other, or whether you need to flesh out a point or two. No matter whatsoever the length of your paper, article, essay or composition, or any academic writing, especially examination writing is concerned, in all these cases, from a 3-page weekly assignment to a 50-page thesis, every time outline can be of some help to you to connect your ideas with each other and to organize them. Besides the basic structure, that is Roman numerals followed by capital letters followed by Arabic numerals, etc., and again the sequence of these can be any, there is no right or wrong way to make an outline. You can do a combination of short phrases with long sentences or stick with one or the other. It's completely a matter of choice. The way you feel comfortable, you can you can make your outline according to that. With this, I move towards the major types of outlines. There are mainly 2 types of outlines that I would like to share with you. The first type is macro outlines. Macro outlines are also known as topic outlines. Some people call them topic outlines. They help to see the larger picture through a series of shorter phrases. A macro outline is particularly helpful when you are writing about a variety of ideas or issues. So mainly a macro outline is comparatively a brief outline. It is an outline that does not use long phrases or sentences. Rather, it uses small phrases or single words as a part of the outline. Here on the slide, at the right side of the slide, the right half of the slide shows you an outline that is made on the macro outline format. So if your topic is outlines or writing outlines, in that case this can be your outline to write on writing outlines. If you look at this format, you would see it has 5 basic components that are numbered as Roman numbers 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. 1, what is it? 2, macro. 3, micro. These are the 2 types. 4, crafting on outline, and 5, outline to paper. So under each of these headings, then some subheadings are created. For example, under number 1, what is it, which means what is an outline, A and B, form of outline, and then B, purpose of outline is mentioned, and you can see that only single words, form and purpose, are used for each of these subcategories. In the same way, moving towards the second major category or major point, that is macro type of outlines. Again, you can see only one word macro is used to identify that, and then 2 subcategories, that is A, phrases, and B, examples is written. और फिर examples का analysis और उनकी explanation देने के लिए further subcategorization is used. That is again numbered as 1 and 2. In the examples you would explain each example and then you would analyze that. With this, the writer has moved on to the third major category, that is the second type of outlines, that is micro outlines, and again A, B and C subcategories are used to give some details, to tell about details, quotations, examples, how all these things are used in micro outlines. And then again subcategories within the subcategory example 1 and 2 to give explanation and analysis of the examples is added. It is also important to notice, my dear students, that if you look at the arrangement or the organization, just by looking at the graphical representation of this part of the outline, what I would like you to notice is how Roman numbers are used, 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5, and how left indented. Out of all this, these are the 5 points that are left indented, and they are prominently visible. They can be seen very easily once you look at the outline. Then the subcategories within each of these categories, or the subheadings within each of these main 5 headings, you can see they are slightly indented towards right. You see, ये यहाँ पर आने की बजाय ये आगे इस साइड पे they are indented towards right. और फिर आगे अगर फॉर एग्जाम्पल दिस कैटेगरी बी एग्जाम्पल की यहाँ पर आगे फर्दर सब कैटेगरीज हैं, व्हाट इज डन इज इट इज डबल इंडेंटेड, इट इज फर्दर इंडेंटेड हियर. So you see, automatically you can see these are the main categories, these are the subcategories, and then within these subcategories there are certain other categories, smaller categories that are mentioned here. That is why you can easily see that when it comes to the fourth major heading, that is crafting an outline, you can see subheadings as A, identifying topic, B, main points, C, order, D, subpoints, and E, evaluate. However, interestingly, you can notice that no further categorization or further subheadings are used. So the outline clearly shows that. And with this, the writer has moved on to number 5 heading, that is the major heading, outline to paper, which is again categorized into some subcategories. A, where to start, B, changing outline, C, retro outline, that could be ordered in any number of ways. So you see, again you do not see further subcategorization. By following this kind of an outline, that if you have prepared once, you can write a detailed essay or composition or an academic examination questions answer on how to use an outline or what is an outline. If you see this, as I have already mentioned, each of the part of the outline consists of just a few words. Longer phrases or clauses or sentences are not used, and without giving much detail or without going into much details, just by using single words, the ideas are jotted down here. It is very easy to quickly look over and see the big picture, making sure you have covered all the points that you want to discuss. This kind of outline helps you stay on track when you are writing, because you can quickly look at it and identify how much of it you have covered or how much of it is left. In addition, you can easily rearrange any section simply by copying and pasting without getting too bogged down. आप कहीं पर भी arrow लगा के, if you are doing it manually, or just by changing the main numbering, you can change the place of any of the sections. For example, if you want to talk about, once you have made the outline, you decide that you want to introduce micro type of outlines first, you can change the place of this 3 to the place of 1, and you can bring macro type here either by cut paste if you are working on a computer, or if you are doing it manually, what you can do is you can just change the number, or you can use arrows or any other ways to identify that. Anyhow, it is very easy to handle. Well, how these macro outlines can be used? I would say that macro outlines tend to work well in conjunction with clustering, as the short phrases from a clustering exercise can translate quickly to a macro outline. Before I move on, I think it would be a good idea if I share with you what is a cluster and how clustering is done. Well, clustering is a type of pre-writing that allows you to explore many ideas as soon as they occur to you. Like brainstorming or free associating, clustering allows you to begin without clear ideas. To begin to cluster, choose a word that is central to your assignment. For example, if you are supposed to write a paper or a composition or an answer about the value of a college education. Now, if value of college education is your main topic, you might choose the word expectations and write that word in the middle of your sheet of paper. Then circle it, circle the word expectations, then write all the words around it as they come to you. Or as you think of expectations, whatsoever it comes to your mind, keep on jotting it down on the paper. You can use circles to place it at different points or at different places on the paper. Write down all the words that you associate with expectations. Words that at first may seem to be random, they might be found later on somehow associated. So write quickly, circling each word, grouping words around the central word. Connect your new words to previous ones with lines or with arrows. When you feel you have exhausted a particular avenue of associations, go back to your central word and begin again. So you would go back to your central idea of a college education. You can start from there again, and thus you can develop certain clusters. Let me show you how it works. Here is an example of what I was just talking about. When you're talking about, for example, what you have to mainly write about is the value of college education, and you want to start with expectations related to college education. Just write the word expectations at a piece of paper, circle it, and start thinking. Now randomly all the ideas that come to your mind, you are supposed to put them on the piece of paper at different places. What I mean by this is that clustering is more like dumping your thoughts. Whatsoever comes to your mind, just put it on the piece of paper and let it be there. So for example, the first thought that comes to your mind is that first value of college education, the expectation related to that is intellectual growth. You just write the word. That it gives job skills, that there are some social aspects of college. Now from this maybe you can think of something else. What are the social aspects? For example, career networking. Within career networking, now again you think of it and you think of jobs I want to do and jobs I don't want to do. Within jobs I don't want to do, a particular job that comes to your mind, or a couple of other jobs that come to your mind. So for example, you don't want to work as an accountant, and the jobs that you want to do, kind of jobs, for example, of a comedian that you want to do, or a couple of other jobs that you can mention. Now that you are exhausted with brainstorming on this, you can move back and you can restart it by putting some other main area as the central word for your work. So I hope that in this case of example that I have given, you would have seen that expectations might lead you to consider the social aspects of college, which may lead you to consider career networking. You may then find yourself writing down words that compare the types of jobs you might get through career networking. And you may end up asking yourself questions such as, what sorts of jobs do I want or I don't want? So have fun with this exercise. Even silly questions come to your mind, you can jot them down, such as, what if I ended up waiting tables at Buddy's, that is working as a waiter? Wouldn't I rather be a lion tamer or an accountant? What about my brilliant career as a stand-up comedian? So even if some ideas that you do not find very much relevant to yourself or to the work you are doing, you are preparing an outline for or clustering for, you can put them there. Some words will take you nowhere. So this is very important about a cluster. That is why I said it is mind dumping activity. Whatsoever comes to your mind, you dump it there on the piece of paper. Some words or some ideas that you would put on the paper there would lead towards something, would guide you to write later on, but there would be some that would not. So it's okay if some words will take you nowhere. With other words, you may discover that you have many related words to write. Random associations eventually become patterns of logic as you look over your work. After looking over the clustering exercise that I have just shared with you, you might conclude that you want an exciting career as a performer of some type rather than a job in the service sector or behind a desk. Now your sample paper or essay or the composition that you have to write on the value of a college education, it would have some focus, and you can focus on how you expect college to lead to an interesting career that involves creativity, skill and performance. So you might then want to return to the phrase job skills and develop that part of the cluster, noting the skills that you would need to reach your ideal career. So you see, just by developing set of 6 to 7 clusters, maybe you would be able to have all the ideas for the main areas that you would cover under the title of your composition, that is value of a college education. It is important to mention here that clustering does not take the place of a linear traditional outline, but as the example shows, it allows you to explore ideas before committing them to a particular order. So mainly the purpose of clustering is different from an organized outline. You may call it the initial stage of writing an outline, where you just explore whatsoever you have in your mind, you put it on a piece of paper. The second step is where you organize it, give it some order and give it some logic. Once you do that, it becomes your outline. Dear students, if you remember, I have already said at the outset of the introduction of macro type of outlines that macro outlines are also called topic outlines. So for example, Yockey 1982 has called them topic outlines, and here I have 2 samples for you of one good and one bad topic outline, or what you may call macro outline. So look at the first sample. On the left side at the top there is the sample, the first sample. The topic of this outline is the plays of Shakespeare. And you can notice that the writer of this outline has created a list of the plays of Shakespeare. The plays that are given here are Macbeth, The Comedy of Errors, Othello, Henry V, The Merchant of Venice, Romeo and Juliet, Love's Labour's Lost, Richard II, Henry IV Part 1, and finally Hamlet. Now the list has quite a number of the plays that are mentioned here. However, if you look at it in comparison to the second simple outline that is provided at the bottom of the same column, you would see it is different. Here the plays of Shakespeare, again the writer has outlined according to the topic. However, the writer has divided it into 3 parts. Part 1 is tragedies, number 2 comedies, and number 3 histories. You can notice that under each of these main headings or main areas, then subheadings are created. For example, under the first main heading tragedies, you can see A. Macbeth, B. Othello, C. Romeo and Juliet, D. Hamlet. The second main heading or main category, comedies, has A. The Comedy of Errors, B. Love's Labour's Lost, and C. The Merchant of Venice. And the third main category, histories, has again 3 entries in it: Richard II, Henry IV Part 1, and Henry V. What you can notice in this outline is that it is more organized and systematic as compared to the first one. I hope you would have been able to notice that the first list also includes the same titles of plays as the second list. But there is no organization in the first list. The plays are not listed in any meaningful way. They have been grouped according to similar characteristics under 3 headings in the second outline, where you can see them under tragedies, comedies, and histories. Also, numbering is used. Numbering and sub-numbering is used to categorize them in the second outline for the plays of Shakespeare as compared to the first outline, where no numbering is used, which actually is hindrance for the reader to understand. So the second kind of organization is helpful in making the distinctions clear and in focusing on one particular distinction at a time. Now if you start writing on the plays of Shakespeare following the first outline, it would be haphazard. The writer would be disoriented. Whereas in the second case, the writer would have clear-cut path in front of him or her, and it would be very easy for him or her to follow the outline and thus logically move from one type of Shakespearean plays to another type, and covering covering all the titles or all the plays under each category. The writer can establish connections and can establish a more organized kind of outline. Well, just for your benefit, here is another topic outline that I have given as a sample. The topic of this outline is the purpose of study skills. If this is your topic of writing, the purpose of study skills, you can have it divided into two parts. Number one, to introduce students to proper attitudes towards their studies. And number two, to instruct and to provide practice in study skills. Then each type is further divided. As you can notice, subcategories or subheadings within the first heading are two. That is A, attitude towards English, B, attitude towards other subjects. Whereas in under the second main heading, you would find more than two subheadings. A, using a dictionary, B, learning vocabulary, C, outlining, D, note making, E, using a library, and F, preparing for examinations. Well, you can also notice that the writer has felt the need that within the first main category, the two subcategories that are provided as A and B, they need to have further subcategorization. That is why 1 and 2 is used for subcategory A, and under the subcategory attitude towards English, further 2 points are raised. That is, number 1, reasons for studying English, number 2, study habits in English. In the same way, under the second subheading, that is subheading B, attitude towards other subjects, 3 further subheadings are created: the importance of motivation, the need for concentration, the problem of distractions. However, the writer has felt that the subheadings given under the second main head, that is to instruct and to provide practice in sub-skills, this area does not need further subcategorization, so these are not mentioned. Just a single glance at the outline makes it very clear the organization and the system that the writer has created in presenting the ideas for the topic, the purpose of study skills. I hope by so far you are clear about the outlines that are of macro type, which means the topic outlines where only a word or a phrase is considered enough instead of a long phrase or a clause or a sentence. In comparison to these brief, very focused outlines, there is another type of outlines that we call micro outlines. A micro outline, contrary to what its name might suggest, micro outline, I would say, can be even longer than macro outline. A micro outline is also known as a sentence outline, and it goes into the little details of the paper or the essay or the composition that you have to develop, and it is particularly useful when the topic you are discussing is rather complex in nature. For this reason, it is often more useful to create an outline using complete sentences rather than the short phrases of the macro outline. However, I would say it completely depends upon the nature of the topic that is given to you. It also depends upon how much time you have to do that activity. Talking about micro outlines, I would say, in addition, a micro outline can sometimes be useful to insert the quotations you may use and subsequent analysis into your micro outline. This can help to ensure you have enough support for your ideas, as well as a reminder to actually analyze and discuss quotations rather than simply insert them and move on. So the first conclusion that we draw about micro outlines is that micro outlines are more complicated, they are more lengthy, they are more detailed, and they are often used for the texts or for the composition areas or topics that are considered to be more complex. Well, here on the slide you can see a sample of micro outline. Again, the same topic, what is an outline, or the writing of an outline. If that is your main topic of writing, you can see this outline is a detailed outline that is established on the topic, writing an outline. Now, since it was not possible to show the whole outline in one column because that would have made the text very small, what I have done is that I have just split it into two parts. Left part, that is shown in black text, is the first part, and then the second part is the blue one, which simply means that you can take part one or black part of, or the black column as your first page and the blue one as your second page. However, to give you an idea of the totality of all this, I have presented all this on one page. Again, you can notice that the same 5 points as they were used for the macro outline of the topic, writing an outline. When I created a macro outline for that, these same 5 points were used as the main points. What is an outline? Macro outlines, micro outlines. Number 4, crafting an outline, and number 5, outline to paper. However, you can notice that even within the style of writing of these main headings, there is a difference. In the case of macro outline, what is it was used. Here, what is an outline is used. In the same way, for second and third main headings, the single words macro and micro were respectively used in the previous outline. However, in this detailed outline that is called sentence outline or micro outline, you can see that comparatively longer phrases, that is macro outlines or micro outlines, are used as headings. Then within each main heading you can see that some subheadings are created, again following the same pattern. A, an outline is a formally arranging and developing your idea. B, the purpose of an outline is to help you organize your paper, checking to see if and how your ideas connect to each other or whether you need to flesh out a point or two. In the same way, under the second main heading, macro outlines, you can see A, macro outlines, also known as topic outlines, help you see the larger picture through a series of short phrases. B, example. With an example, again, two subcategories are created. One, each part of the outline consists of just a few words and conveys the basic idea of what belongs there without going into too much detail. Two, it is very easy to quickly look over and see the big picture, making sure you have covered all the points that you want to discuss in your mind map. Number 3 heading, micro outlines, again has subheadings within it. A micro outline, also known as a sentence outline, goes into the title, into the little details of the paper, and is particularly useful when the topic you are discussing is complex in nature. B, it can sometimes be useful to insert the quotations you may use and subsequent analysis into your micro outline. And then C, example. Within example, again, two categories. One, a micro outline tends to be much longer than the macro outline. Two, by using complete sentences, you are able to see exactly what you are writing about instead of relying on keywords to spark ideas. So far, what you would have noticed is that each main heading is in the form of a phrase, not a word. Secondly, I hope you would have been able to notice that each main heading has subheadings or subcategorizations, and each subcategory or subheading is a complete sentence in itself. This is the main difference in a macro outline and a micro outline. In the same way, if you go through heading 4 and heading 5, that are the main headings, you would notice that they are also divided into subheadings, and each subheading is a complete sentence in itself. By looking only at the whole information that is provided on this slide, you can see that a micro outline is a very detailed outline. It provides not only details in the form of complete sentences, but also it provides complete guidance towards how something is to be tackled or how something is to be approached while writing. For example, when you look at heading 4, crafting an outline, and you come to the last point or last subheading within this, that is E. It is written, evaluate your outline, look over what you have written. Does it make logical sense? Is each point suitably fleshed out? Is there anything unnecessary? So actually the writer of this outline has given clues for himself or herself to later on develop the ideas, challenging and asking questions from the reader, that while developing an outline, how logical sense or how you see establishing every point and how you see fleshing out that is not required is important. So just by looking at the size, if you compare the size of this sample micro outline with the macro outline of the same topic that I shared with you, you can see how much effort has been put by the writer in making this outline. Now it is important to mention here at this point that in the first look, this outline may seem to be very complex, very complicated and very lengthy. It may be terrifying for you to see that such an exhaustive kind of outline is required when you want to establish a micro outline. And just out of the fear or apprehension of that it would take a lot of time, many of the students go for macro outline development when it comes to examinations or doing their assignments, papers, etc. However, what I would say is, if you give enough time to develop an outline, it saves your time when you are writing. All the time that goes into the writing or development of an outline, it actually pays back, and it pays back by providing you a chance to write efficiently, less laboriously and speedily when it comes to the writing of the actual composition or essay. And as you can see from the example that I have just shared with you, a micro outline tends to be much longer than the macro outline. However, by using complete sentences, you are able to see exactly what you are writing about instead of relying on keywords to spark ideas. Some people also find it easier to move from a micro outline to the paper because there is already a lot of work that is done, and you can simply continue to expand on the ideas with further analysis, rather than trying to remember the reason why some point was included in the first place when it comes to the use of a macro outline or a topic outline. Well, as I have already said that a micro outline is also called a sentence outline, and as Yorkie 1982 has also called it a sentence outline. Here is a sample that I am going to share with you regarding this sentence outline. If you look at the left column, you would see the very title of this outline is forgetting. So on the topic forgetting, if you have to develop an outline, this is an example of a sentence outline or a micro outline. Again, you can see it is mainly divided into two parts with two main headings. Number one, why does forgetting occur? Number two, how can forgetting be overcome? Now within each of these two main areas, further categories are established or further headings are established. Under the main heading, why does forgetting occur? Two subheadings are created. A, forgetting occurs because of disuse. B, forgetting occurs because of interference. Whereas under the second main heading, how can forgetting be overcome? You can see three main headings are created that fall under this category. The first subheading that is created under this main heading is material should be meaningful and well organized if you want to overcome forgetting. B, material should be overlearned. And C, material should be systematically reviewed. Again, you can see this is a comparatively more complex outline as compared to a macro outline or a topic outline, because within each subheading you can see that some further categories or subheadings are created. For example, within main category 1 and subcategory A, forgetting occurs because of disuse. You can see 1 and 2. 2 points are mentioned. 1, material that is not used is soon forgotten. 2, this is an old and no longer completely accepted theory. So these are the 2 points that the writer would like to talk about while writing on the topic forgetting. So the purpose again of showing this outline to you was twofolded. One, to show you the nature of the choices that are made, that the main headings here. If you go back and you look at what we did here, you see what is an outline: macro outlines, micro outlines, crafting an outline, outline to paper. In this case, you would have seen most of the times phrases are used as the main headings. However, in this example that I am right now discussing with you, what you can see is that two sentences that are in interrogative form. Why does forgetting occur and how can forgetting be overcome? They are used as the main headings, and within them again you can see that sentences that are complete sentences are used to organize thoughts and ideas. Talking about the format of presentation or writing of this kind of outline, again you can see 1 and 2, left indented first and the second main headings, then comparatively right indented subheadings A and B in this case, and A, B and C in the case of the second main heading. And again, if there are further subheadings, they are further indented. So just by having a look at this, the visual representation of the outline would clearly give an idea that there are two main areas with further subcategories and then subcategories or subheadings. So again you can see that the purpose of this kind of outline is to provide you clear-cut directions in writing. However, one more thing that I would like to share with reference to this kind of outline is, do not go for very complicated, lengthy and multiple phrases or multiple clauses sentences. Go for simple sentences. Most of the times try to stick to simple sentences instead of compound and complex sentences, so that the outline, number one, does not become very complicated and complex, and number two, so that you can save your time, and instead of going into the lengthy outline, you can have a reasonably precise one. Well, now that you have seen examples of topic and sentence outlines, we can look more closely at their form. First, notice that an outline usually starts with the largest or most important idea and then progresses down to smaller or less important ideas. To indicate the comparative importance of ideas, numbers and letters are used. For example, here you can see most important, then less important, and within these even lesser important. Within these, if further sub ideas, and you see you can see how gradually the indent is used to show the less importance of each idea that follows. Second, notice how each heading is indented. Headings of equal rank are indented an equal distance from the margin. So if these two are your main headings, you cannot place one here and the second cannot be indented from here or indented from here. It has to come on the equal margin. If a heading runs from one line to the next, it is indented so that it starts directly below the first word of the preceding line. Let me show you how. अब अगर आप इस आइडिया की बात कर रहे हैं ना, अंडर फर्स्ट मेन हेडिंग आइडिया बी की बात कर रहे हैं, ये देखें यू आर राइटिंग इट हियर. अब अगर कंटिन्यू हो रहा है अगली लाइन पे तो वो यहाँ से नहीं लिखेंगे, यू वुड इंडेंटेड टू फिक्स इट हियर ताकि कोई कंफ्यूजन ना हो जब आप उस पे लेटर ऑन व्हेन यू वर्क ऑन दैट. The purpose of indentation is to make each heading stand out clearly so that you can see it quickly and see how it is related to what is before and after it. Fourth, notice that no punctuation is needed at the end of the topics in a topic outline. Punctuation in a sentence outline follows regular sentence practice. Finally, notice that periods are used or full stops are used after numbers and letters. For fifth and lower ranks, parentheses are used instead of a dot. ये parentheses, ये brackets जो use हुई है ना, इनकी बात हो रही है. So you see, by just looking at this sample, आपको clearly समझ आ जाएगी how it is to be written. Sometimes students take it for granted and they would just scribble it on the paper and they would think it's okay if they, for example, are not following indentation. The result of that is once they start writing, they cannot judge the value and importance of an idea in relation to the ideas that come before or after it. Wherever you follow indentation, it clearly gives you the idea how much bigger or how much smaller an idea is. So you can decide how much time and space you would give to the explanation of that idea or to the expansion of that idea when it comes to real writing. Dear students, before we end up the first part of our today's session, that is on writing an outline, like we have the precedence of always having some activities and exercises towards the end of each topic or session, I would like to share an exercise with you. Here is an exercise for you to do. So spare some time to do this exercise. Assume that your English teacher has asked you to write a composition on the topic. Well, in this case, I am your teacher, for example, and I have given you the topic to write on. English is a difficult language for me to learn. So if your topic is English is a difficult language for me to learn, before you start to write, you think about this topic and quickly jot down ideas as they come to your mind. अब ये वो जो माइंड डंपिंग एक्टिविटी है ना, क्लस्टरिंग जिस तरह से आप कहते हैं, उस तरह की एक्टिविटी आप कर लेते हैं. Now these ideas are written below in random order just as you might have written them down. अब at the bottom of the sheet यहाँ पर, at the bottom of the column ये, and then in the next column ये. All these are ideas supposedly as they came to your mind. कि for example आपने यूँ आइडिया सोचे, जो जो आते गए वो आपने ये सारे लिख दिए हैं. ठीक है, now I have provided these for you. Now what you have to do is look them over, organize them into either a topic or sentence outline. अब आपने इन आइडियाज को ऑर्गेनाइज करके एक टॉपिक या सेंटेंस आउटलाइन की फॉर्म देनी है. Omit those you now think are not related to the topic. Maybe when you were brain dumping, maybe when you were just putting all these on the piece of paper randomly, some of those seem to be relevant and now you don't find their relevance anymore, so you can skip those. What I would also like is, do not write the composition, just create an outline. Simply write an outline by revisiting and reorganizing these ideas, and for that I would like you to have your notebook or book or a piece of paper to stop here for a while, to look at all these and to develop your outline. I hope this activity would help you have some clarity on how an outline can be developed, and with that practice you would be able to apply the rules of developing an outline when it comes to doing your assignments, your quizzes, and then your final examination paper, where as a rough work you can do the outline before you really go for your actual answer for any academic question. Well, now that you have learned how to make an outline, I would also like to share that once you have done an outline, how to move from the outline to the real paper or to the real composition. I would say once you have a satisfactory outline, you are ready to start writing the essay or the paper. One of the best things about an outline is that you can start at any point and still know what you need to discuss before and after that section. For example, अगर आपने एक outline बना ली हुई है, अगर आप you don't want to write the introduction, आप उसको छोड़ के you can start from the second heading, और later on because you already have established the outline, you know clearly कि कौन-कौन से areas रहते हैं. As you write, however, you may find yourself diverging from your outline. Don't panic. It may be that the act of writing these ideas out has spawned new ideas that simply need to be added to your outline. Go ahead and add them, but make sure all the ideas still flow together well. On the other hand, moving away from the outline can also mean that you have lost your focus. Sorry, bhai, ye sentence dobara. On the other hand, moving away from the outline can also mean that you have lost your focus. So be careful, and in that case try to stick to the outline that you have created for your writing. With this we come to an end to the first part of the session that was about writing an outline, and now we come to part 2 of today's session, that is on using a dictionary. In this part of the session we would cover number 1, the authority of a dictionary, number 2, differences in British and American English and the use of dictionaries. Then we would move on to desk dictionaries and how they are to be used and which dictionary to buy. This would be an issue that would be addressed. Finally, I would share with you what a dictionary will tell you, which means how it can be used as a tool effectively. Exercises on how to use a dictionary effectively would also be shared with you. Just to give you an introduction of what I mean by using a dictionary, I would say that most of the times we take dictionary as a tool that we assume we know how to use. We take it for granted and we use it without much practice. The natural result of this is that most of the times we own a dictionary for quite long a time and still we do not know how much it can be used, and most of its use remains unexploited by students. I would say that for foreign students of English, a good dictionary is a necessary reference book. Like all other tools, however, it is valuable only if it is used correctly and efficiently. A short time spent on what a dictionary contains and how it should be used will save you much time later. So the time that you invest on learning how to use a dictionary is not a wastage of time, rather it pays you back. Well, as far as the authority of a dictionary is concerned, I would say there are many English dictionaries. A few are excellent, many are poor, of course. None of them is the supreme authority that advertisers may claim. Unlike some other languages, English has never been regulated, approved or authorized by an academy or government ministry. An English dictionary is merely a record of how English speakers define, pronounce, spell and use the words of their language. The only authority an English dictionary has is its completeness, its accuracy in reporting the facts and its recency of publication. When it comes to British and American English and the differences in the spellings and pronunciation of both, sometimes it becomes challenging even while using a dictionary. Foreign students are frequently worried about the differences between British English and American English. Although these differences may seem to be confusing at first, they are not sufficiently numerous or important to worry about. As far as the Pakistani students are concerned, well, our most of the academic texts, books and materials are written in British English. Most of the written resources that we have available are again in British English. However, all the internet resources that we use, most of them are in American English, so the students find themselves confused. However, when it comes to the use of a dictionary in this regard, don't be panicked, don't get confused. The number of these differences is not that big, and it is not as important to worry about. Where a difference exists, a good dictionary will indicate alternate British or American pronunciations, spellings or meanings. Either is equally correct anyways. Before I move on to how you can efficiently use a dictionary, I would like to talk about desk dictionaries. Several large dictionaries called unabridged editions or unabridged dictionaries contain all the words of the language. Usually you will not need such a complete dictionary. They are very big in size. If you should, you will find it in the reference room of a good library. You do not need to buy those. बहुत ज़्यादा महंगी होती हैं और बहुत बड़ी भी होती हैं. Practically you don't need them. Your study needs will be met by one of the common and convenient abridged dictionaries. ये वो dictionaries होती हैं जो abridged form में होती हैं. These are the dictionaries that have more than 1 lakh words plus important references. The only thing that you need to take care of is that number one, this unabridged dictionary is a standard dictionary, and number two, that it is a recent edition. पुरानी ना हो, नई publication हो, and that would be okay for your use as a student. Well, which dictionary to buy is a very, very important question. Actually, I have just here on the slide, you can have a look at from Yorkie's book. I have given this page where, using an English dictionary, he has given some examples of good dictionaries that can be used. He has referred to Hornby's Oxford Advanced Learners Dictionary of Current English and Longman Dictionary of Contemporary English as well. And at the top of this page you can see American Heritage Dictionary, you can see Funk and Wagnall's Standard College Dictionary, you can see the Random House Dictionary of English Language, then Webster's New World Dictionary of American Language, and Webster's New Collegiate Dictionary. These are the important dictionaries that he has mentioned, and you can choose any of these if you want to buy a dictionary, though I would say these are not the only dictionaries that you can choose from. Well, as far as the years of editions of these dictionaries, as they are mentioned here, I would say, since these are the old ones, of course, as the time passes, new editions come into the market. New editions of almost all of these dictionaries are available. Try to get the most recent editions so that you can take benefit out of that. I would also like to point out that because new words come into the language and they keep on pouring into language, and old meanings frequently change, it is important to use only a dictionary that has been recently published or revised. For example, a lot of words that are anglicized during the process of the expansion of English, they are added. So avoid a dictionary that is more than 10 or at most 15 years old. Small paper-covered dictionaries have only a limited value for your study needs. They are abridgments of abridgments. वो जो abridged dictionaries होती हैं ना, उनको भी further abridge करके, further उनको छोटा करके, उनमें से मुख्तसर की हुई होती हैं. So also, though they may have been published recently, many of these pocket-sized dictionaries are copied without changes from old dictionaries. So what I mean by this is, do not use pocket-sized dictionaries. They are generally not good for student needs. Rather, a desk dictionary would be a good solution to your problems. Avoid a native language to English dictionary. For example, Japanese to English, French English, Persian English, etc. Dictionaries of this kind are frequently poorly edited and out of date. So most of these dictionaries have problems. Although they may serve an occasional and immediate convenience, their great danger is the assumption that there is a one-for-one correspondence between the words of the two languages. Sometimes there is, most often there is not. Word translations of the kind that such dictionaries encourage can lead you into many mistakes. So go for a standard English dictionary. Furthermore, you will not increase your English vocabulary but only temporarily find what may be a false equivalent. अगर आप नेटिव लैंग्वेज टू इंग्लिश, जैसे उर्दू टू इंग्लिश डिक्शनरी हमारे यहाँ बहुत से स्टूडेंट्स यूज करते हैं. सो इंस्टेड ऑफ यूजिंग सच डिक्शनरीज एंड द लोकल एडिशंस, इफ यू गो फॉर standard English to English dictionaries, they would help you more. The very crucial part of today's discussion under the second part, that is using dictionaries of today's session, is what a dictionary will tell you. Well, generally we think that we look meaning of a word in a dictionary. However, apart from providing us the meaning of a word, a dictionary tells you a lot of other things. If we are aware of it, we can utilize it for our benefit. Here is the list of some of the things that you can learn from your dictionary. Each of these will be discussed in detail as I would go through these, and maybe you can have some exercise related to some of these. Number 1, spelling. A dictionary shows the accepted spelling of every word that is listed, as well as the spelling of irregular verb forms and plurals. Number 2, pronunciation. Each dictionary has a special way of showing how words are pronounced, including stress. Some would use phonetic signs and symbols that are standard English phonetic signs that would be given at the beginning of a dictionary. Some would not do that. They would have their own way of writing the pronunciation. But there would always be a key provided at the outset of a dictionary, and by looking at that key carefully, you can always understand how to interpret the pronunciation of each word that is given in the dictionary. Syllables division. Well, a word can be divided into different syllables, and in how many syllables it is to be divided, the dictionary helps you know. In this way, it helps you spelling and pronouncing words and indicates where the word should be divided at the end of a line. Fourth important thing that a dictionary can help you learn is derivations. A dictionary includes the history of each word, indicating its origin and development through different languages before it became an English word. जैसे हमारे यहाँ उर्दू में है ना कि बहुत सारे वर्ड्स का ओरिजिन जो है वो फारसी में है. They have their origin in Persian or Arabic or sometimes in Sanskrit. So in the same way, English words, many of them, they have their origin in Latin, Greek or French. And from other languages also English has borrowed. So how this process of borrowing has taken place, from which language a particular word has come, and how it has traveled through times from one language to the other to yet another, finally reaching English and becoming a part of English vocabulary. All these details are provided in every standard dictionary regarding each and every entry. Number 5. The fifth thing that a dictionary may tell you is meaning. This is what generally we look up for when we open a dictionary. Almost every word has more than a single meaning. Different meanings are given, often with illustrative sentences. Special technical definitions are also listed. One word would have more than one meanings at a time. Simultaneously, it can be used in different ways. So a dictionary would provide all the synonyms, would provide different meanings that can be used in different contexts. And good dictionaries also provide some illustrations, some examples of how they are to be used. The next thing what a dictionary would tell you is what part of speech a particular word is. Well, a part of speech is actually determined by its use in a real sentence. A dictionary indicates, however, whether the word is commonly used as a noun, pronoun, verb, and within verb even whether transitive or intransitive verb, whether it is used as an adjective, adverb, conjunction or preposition. And some good dictionaries would also provide you some examples of how it would be used as a noun, for instance, and how when it would be used as a verb, how its pronunciation would be changed, for example, or how it would be placed as a transitive or intransitive verb, etc. Continuing on what a dictionary will tell you, I would share another important addition of information that a dictionary can make to your knowledge is about the usage. Your dictionary will tell you whether a word is chiefly British or American, that is mainly it is from British or American English, or whether the word is formal, colloquial, dialectical, archaic, poetic or slang. किस तरह का word है, कहाँ से आया है, whether it is used in formal language or informal language. This information is often important in using that word when it comes to writing. So it's important to have a good dictionary so that if you are in doubt about a certain word, you can check that. Another important information that dictionary provides regarding the entries in it are synonyms and antonyms. Frequently words of similar meaning, that is synonyms, or words of opposite meanings, that is antonyms, are listed with explanation of the distinctions, and it is made clear how different synonyms are to be used in different contexts and what antonym would be used in a particular context. Apart from telling all this, a dictionary also tells us, it gives us some general information. What is this general information? Well, information about persons and places is listed either within the alphabetical arrangement of the words or in special sections at the back. For example, a dictionary will tell you the location of Roanoke, the population of Kathmandu, or the dates that Cleopatra ruled. So important information is somewhere added in it. To sum up this part, I would say any good dictionary will give you this much information that you can use for your academic purposes if you wisely benefit from it. Some dictionaries also include rules for spelling, punctuation and capitalization, as well as vocabulary of rhymes, a list of common first names in English, and even a list of colleges and universities in important parts of the world, for example Canada and the United States. If you are confused by the system of weights and measures used in English, you can find a table of equivalents in a good standard dictionary if you have that. Whichever dictionary you use, get to know it like a friend. It's a friend. If you get to know your dictionary, it would be of big help for you. My dear students, before I close this part of the session, I would like you to do this exercise that is given on the screen right now. Well, the purpose of this exercise is you to have a look at your dictionary, to explore it, how it is used, and to be ready and prepared how you can use a dictionary. The reality is that this alphabetical exercise that I am going to share with you is because all the information that is provided in a dictionary is organized alphabetically. Alphabetical entries in a dictionary give them a kind of order, and you must know the correct order of the letters in English. Words are arranged according to the first letter. When words begin with the same letter, they are arranged according to the second letter. If both the first and second letters are the same, they are arranged according to the third letter, and so on. So, for a quick activity, it's a 1-minute activity. Here I have given some words: address, puzzle, claim, night, empire, mountain, stamp, ruin, wrong, disease. Quickly put them in order here. The purpose is how quickly you can find a word then in a dictionary if you know where it would be placed. Well, here a comparatively more difficult activity as compared to the simpler one on the previous slide. These words here that are given: fry, fate, for, future, fence, flesh, find and freeze. All the 8 words, they start with F. Copy them in alphabetical order according to the second letter of each word. Now this is a bit tricky, it would take a bit more of time. By the way, which one would be the first word? Fate. A is the second word. So this is how you would go ahead, then fence. So this is how you would continue. Do it in a minute quickly. A single glance can help you understand that if you are used to using a dictionary. Now this exercise becomes even more complicated than the previous one. The first few letters of each word are the same. Copy the words in the alphabetical order. You can see P-R-A-C, sometimes P-R-E, sometimes P-R-I. There are certain words that would start with any of these combinations. Look at the words quickly. Practice, private, prepare, pray, praise, press, and present. And the last 3 words are prison, prize, and pretty. So what you have to do is you have to organize them the way they would occur in a dictionary in an alphabetical sequential order. Here you have another activity where again you can see that it is a bit more difficult than the previous one, and you can find a list of words again that start with the letters that are the common ones at the beginning. So what you have to do is to organize them quickly. If you are in a doubt, just hold on for a while, stop here, get your dictionary, get hold of it, open it, check how they are presented. As I have said earlier that good dictionaries provide some additional details as well. Some dictionaries provide, for example, names of important people, etc. When names are mentioned, actually personal names are arranged according to the directory style, which means that the alphabetical arrangement is by the last name, followed by a comma and then the first name. आपने देखा होगा जब भी मैं quote करती हूँ, where I cite some word from somewhere, I always do the same. So for example, Brown Robert instead of Robert Brown, Jones Elizabeth F, Smith John N, Smith John S, Smith Sabrina. So for example, the first name is Sabrina, it would come at the end, and Smith, that is the surname, would come at the beginning. Now what you are supposed to quickly do is, these are the names that are given here, a list is provided. Stop here on this slide for a while, look at this list, change these. If it is Charlie Chaplin, it would become Chaplin Charlie or Chaplin comma C. So what you are supposed to do is you would first change their positioning within each name by bringing the surname at the beginning, and then you would put them in alphabetical order on this list. Before I close this part of the session, I would also like to share a tip with you, finding words quickly. How to do that? Look at the top of any page in your dictionary. 2 words are in heavy black type. The word on the left is the same as the first word on the page. The word on the right is the same as the last word on the page. These 2 words are called the guide words. What I mean by that is कि अगर यही आपका, let's suppose ये आपका dictionary का page है, when you look at the top of the page, यहाँ you would see 2 words written. The first word would be the first entry जो आपकी dictionary के उस particular page पे हुई हुई होगी. जो second word है ना, that would be about the last entry given here on that page. So by looking at those 2 words, you can see that alphabetically all those words that would fall under, you see within that range of words would be found on that page. So actually these are called guide words. They guide you to the word you are looking for. For example, if the guide words on the page are halt and haste, and the word you are looking for is harp, तो अब HAL से halt है ना और HAS से haste है, तो L और S के दरमियान में ही कहीं R आता है. It means the word harp you are looking for, if so you would find it on that page. When you are looking for a word, first thumb through the pages quickly, looking out only at the guide words. When you come to the guide word nearest to the word you want, only then look down that page for the word that you want to use. My dear students, with this we come to the closure of today's session. As I have already shared with you that today's session was divided into two parts. So here is a quick review of the session. Part 1, that was on writing an outline, covered certain areas of writing an outline. I started this part with discussing what is an outline, and then I talked about different types of outlines. Mainly macro and micro types of outlines were talked about. I also shared with you how these types of outlines are also called topic outlines and sentence outlines respectively. Then I showed you some samples of these kinds of outlines, and I shared how a system is created or an order is created in writing them. Advantages of using an outline were also shared. While talking about macro outlines, I introduced the idea of clustering and how clustering can be used for dumping all that comes to your mind. It was also discussed with the help of an example. With the help of samples, I showed to you what is the difference in a good and a bad outline. And finally, I talked about how from an outline that you have developed, you can move on to writing your essay, composition or paper. This was part 1 of our today's session. Part 2 of our today's session was on using a dictionary. Well, this part of the session mainly talked about how dictionary can be used as a useful resource. I started with discussion about the authority of a dictionary, and then I moved on to differences in British and American English and the use of dictionaries in this regard. I introduced what kind of a dictionary you should buy, what is a desk dictionary, and how pocket-sized dictionaries are different from those. The core part of this discussion on using a dictionary was related to what a dictionary will tell you. The purpose of this sharing was to enable you exploit a dictionary fully for your benefit. I shared with you how a dictionary, apart from providing you the meanings of words, provides you a lot of other things. It tells you a lot of other things about words, such as their pronunciation, their synonyms, their antonyms, what part of speech they are, what is their origin, from where they have been taken, and good dictionaries also give some examples of their usage as well. Towards the end of this part of the session, we also had some exercises on how to use a dictionary effectively, where I gave you some exercises that are practically related to the dictionary usage. This is what we have shared so far in today's session, that is mainly covering two parts. Part 1 was about writing outlines, and part 2 using a dictionary. I hope today's session would be of use and of good help for you. Thank you very much.